Good morning, everyone. It's Thursday morning on the 4th of September. And if you're watching Vivian, happy birthday. She's 13 today. We're in chapter 34, the book of the prophet Isaiah. And I will just kind of jump right in. We've spent a lot of time in the beginning of this book. I can't promise that the rest of the book, rest of the chapter, only 17 verses, I can't promise it will go much faster, but it might. I just keep winding up with things to say about this. Chapter 34, beginning in verse 1. Come near, ye nations, to hear. Hearken, ye people, let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world, and all the things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations. He hath delivered them to the slaughter. Their slain also shall be cast out, and their stink shall come up out of their carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood. We talked about this, the battle of Armageddon, from several different places in the Bible. It's not just a one and done mentioned in the book of Revelation, chapter 19. No, it's all over the place. We read passages from Jeremiah, from Ezekiel, from Zechariah, from Matthew 24, from Joel. The day of the Lord is all over the place. Verse 4, and all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. All their hosts shall fall down. And the leaf falleth off the vine as a falling fig tree. No. Please forgive me. My eyes are doing the trick again, where they jump to the next line. This was the verse we concentrated on yesterday. And all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their hosts shall fall down, as the leaf falleth off from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree. The host of heaven shall be dissolved, the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. And we talked about that verse, and it is well with my soul. Lord, bless the day when my face shall be sight. The clouds be rolled back as a scroll. The trump shall resound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul. He's coming back, friends. In Revelation chapter 6 describes this, or a piece of it. Of course, chapter 6 is the seven seals. And there is much destruction upon the earth during that time. The four horsemen of the apocalypse, the great martyrdom of saints. Yeah, there will be saints in the tribulation. We call them tribulation saints. They're separate from the church, but they're still saved in Jesus. The main problem about getting saved after the rapture is trying to keep your head. Not keeping it on straight, just keeping your head. Because the beast, the Antichrist, will seek to destroy by beheading everyone who does not worship him, and that would include all new Christians. See, the greatest revival in history hasn't taken place yet. There are two. One during the one before the trumpet judgments, and one toward the end of the seal judgments, or one at the beginning of the trumpet judgments, one at the end of the seal judgments. Two great revivals, because their souls are in heaven. The first I call the grandma revival, where people who are left behind after the rapture, they'll go check on grandma and they'll find her Bible open on the table and she's gone. They're going to realize where she is, that she's with the Lord. And they'll say grandma was right, and millions of people get saved right after the rapture. Then after the Antichrist is entrenched, the beast, after a quarter of the population of the world has been destroyed, then there'll be another great martyrdom, and they will be the witnesses, the 144,000 witnesses, led by the two great witnesses, the two olive trees in Jerusalem, and they will all die. That's the price that the flesh has to pay for rejecting Christ in this generation. Because this generation shall not pass away until all these things be fulfilled. The rapture is coming, and then the great tribulation upon the earth, which is the wrath of God upon the whole earth. When I saw the Lamb, in verse 1 of chapter 6 of Revelation, and I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and behold, a white horse. And I'm bending my pages. And he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." There went out another horse that was red. Power was given unto him and sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." When he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed after him. And the power was given unto him over the fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword, with hunger, with death, and with the beasts of the earth. A fourth part of the earth, a fourth part of the earth. When I opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, "How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth?" And white robes were given unto every one of them. And it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little while, a little season, till their fellow servants and also their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth their untimely figs, which she is shaken of a mighty wind. Now, this refers back to Isaiah 34. The green figs, the untimely figs, it means that the time for their harvest was not yet. The time for their maturity was not yet. In verse 4, remember our key verse from yesterday, and all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their hosts shall fall down, as the leaf falleth off from the vine, and as a fig falleth from the fig tree. And then Revelation 6:13, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth their untimely figs, which she is shaken of a mighty wind. And then in verse 14, and the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. And every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth upon the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? The heavens depart as a scroll when it is rolled up. They'll just fold it up and put it away. The Lord will. For there'll be something again new. A new heaven and a new earth, we talked about yesterday. In verse 5, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Lo, behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. Idumea was part of Esau. Edom. Esau was Isaac's son. Esau sold his birthright to Jacob for a bowl of grits. And I hope they were cheesy grits. It was pottage of lentils. I guess some kind of a bean soup. Although something is lost in the translation, I don't know if I'd give up my birthright for a bowl of beans. Although I do like beans, as you can tell. I love beans. I'm in a gut malfunction period right now where I can't eat beans or anything that causes gas. They call it the white diet for people with diverticulitis and other lung ailments when you have a flare up. Not lung, gut ailments when you have a flare up. It's called the white diet. It's like, if it's good for you, don't eat it. You eat like a flour tortilla or a piece of white bread or some rice or a baked potato. Drink milk. Buttered bread, white bread. Because anything that requires much of your bodily function to digest is not good for you when you're having one of these gut attacks. I know what caused it. I love hot peppers. And my friends have been harvesting lots of peppers, and I've had sweet peppers and hot peppers both. And over the weekend, I kind of stumped my toe on a bag of peppers. And after eating one with my breakfast and one with my lunch, by the time supper time came, well, let's just say that I could not get very far from the bathroom wherever I was. And it kind of put a cramp on my get around. It still hurts. So I've got to be careful. I have no idea why I'm talking about peppers. So we will go ahead and go. Um, For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. Idumea. Oh, we were talking about how Jacob sold his birthright for a bowl of pottage, that red pottage. Esau was nicknamed Edom because he had red hair and beard and he was very hairy all over. When he established his country in Mount Seir, because he went away from Jacob, went away from Hebron, where his father Isaac and his mother Rebekah were, he dwelled in Mount Seir. His descendants became the Edomites in the country of Edom, which was a thorn in the side and many times an enemy of Israel during the divided kingdom and the united kingdom and in the split kingdom that followed the death of Solomon. Edom being to the south and to the east of Israel, it was subject to helping the Egyptians against Israel and Judah. It was also subject to helping the invaders from the east and the north, like the Assyrians in 5 and 732 BC when they destroyed Samaria, like the Babylonians when they destroyed 586 BC Jerusalem. Now, in the land of Edom, there came up, especially during the conflict where Greece was losing ground to Rome in the 200s BC around 100 BC, that the rich people in Edom, they made alliances with Rome against the Seleucids because the Greeks weren't treating them any better than they treated anybody else. You remember what the Greeks did to the city of Jerusalem. They, under Seleucid, he was, under Seleucid's descendant. One of Alexander's generals, one of his descendants, Antiochus Epiphanes, he came to Jerusalem and sacrificed the hog in the temple. There was a great war in the 160s BC against him, and the family of the Maccabees rose up. And for about 60 years, they lived without interference from foreign powers because of that revolt. Of course, you had the weakening of Greece and the strengthening of Rome. During this period, the rich people who lived in Edom, rich people in any country, it even happens today with these technocrats and billionaires, and what they call on the news and in your social media feed, the tech bros. The rich and the powerful of their day, maybe they had the market cornered on goat poop for fertilizer. I don't know. They could make a business out of anything, you know. But and I say that as a joke, because those of y'all who have been around know that my mother's people were goated sheep ranchers in Kimball County, Texas. So I know all about goats and sheep. I know they're dirty and I know they stink. And if you build a goat a house, he'll go around and stand on top of it and poop on it. That's what goats do. They taste good though. Anyway, the rich people in Edom, they were going to put their money on the Romans. And they had a rather large country that was just to the south of Moab. You know, you had Ammon and you had Moab, and then you had Edom from the east to around the Dead Sea to the southeast and southern part, bordering Israel or Judah during this time period. They voted to put their money on the Romans. And so Idumea was just, this is a prophecy about how rich they were going to be and how a judgment was going to come upon Idumea, because it wasn't the Idumea that we know yet. They formed a province right along the border of Israel, Judah, and then to the south of them was Egypt. And then there was a buffer between them on their east with the rest of Edom and Moab against the armies that would come and conquer from Mesopotamia. In the days of Julius Caesar, they were so powerful that they supported uh, the Romans. When Julius Caesar was in Egypt and he was trapped by Agrippa and the Egyptian army at Alexandria, it was this Idumean who was the father of Herod the Great, and his name was Herod Antipater. And he came and helped Caesar, bailed him out, and Caesar promised he'd make him the king wherever he wanted to be king. Well, he was already like the sheik or the lord or the biggest gangster, you know, in the Idumea part of Edom. Well, he died, and Julius Caesar got assassinated. Good morning, Jennifer. But Antipater's son, whom we know as Herod the Great, he went to Rome and he sweet talked Mark Antony and Octavian, who became Caesar Augustus. They were in allies at the time after the death of Caesar. And he talked him into making him king of Judea. Mark Antony's, Octavian didn't want to do it. And I believe that Mark Antony decided to empower Herod the Great just to make Octavian mad because they didn't like each other. As it turned out, that Octavian's army would have killed Antony in Egypt if Antony had not killed himself as Octavian's army was marching toward Alexandria. Rick, good morning, Rick. God bless you. I love you, my friend. So anyway, that was how Herod the Great wound up on the throne. And he was an Idumean. By then, they were a mixed race of Arabian peoples and the descendants of Esau, Edom. But this idea of Idumea, even though Idumea was not powerful during Isaiah's day, it was just part of Edom. And because he's talking about the area that would become Idumea in the north and western province in Edom. And that's where Idumea was during the days of the Herods. And it's kind of a side story, but part of this curse doesn't anticipate it. But, Herod the Great, the guy that tried to kill Jesus, and wound up killing every baby in Bethlehem under the age of 2, trying to kill Jesus when Joseph took him and Mary and fled to Egypt. It was an Idumean, and that's why this verse rings so loud in my ears. Verse 5, for my sword, the Lord says, shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse into judgment. Idumea was, as part of Edom, was conquered by Babylon, never by the Assyrians. Oh, they were invaded. They were conquered by the Seleucids, the Greeks, after Alexander the Great. Matter of fact, there was a lot of war fought in Moab and in Ammon and in Edom, which included Idumea, between the Greeks under Seleucid and the Greeks under the other Roman general, Ptolemy, who started the last royal dynasty in Egypt, of which Cleopatra was the end of the line. So much history there. So the sword eventually would come upon them, and finally with Rome. So this was a future prophecy that was fulfilled by the Babylonians, by the Greeks, and then eventually by Rome. And I believe it's not over now, because that area belongs to Jordan and Saudi Arabia. And there's not going to be any peace there. They seem like the reasonable people, but when the devil is your God, you can't count on reasonability. You can't count on rationality, because the devil will do anything against God that he can. Verse 5, Isaiah 34, for my sword shall be bathed in heaven. There was a verse in Jeremiah that I remember because I remember from when we studied Jeremiah about his sword being bathed in blood, or his sword being drawn, being flowing, causing the blood to flow. Let's look. Hands are no good. Chapter 46 of the book of the prophet Jeremiah. I think it's 46. Let me look at this verse again. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Yes. Now he's talking about a judgment upon Egypt. But when he did finally judge Egypt by Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians, Nebuchadnezzar swept through Ammon, Moab, and Edom on his way into Egypt. In verse 10, it says, "For this is the day of the Lord God of hosts, a day of vengeance, that he may avenge him of his adversaries, and the sword shall devour, and it shall be satiated, and made drunk with their blood. And the Lord God of hosts hath a sacrifice in the north country by the river Euphrates." That would be to the north and the east of where this was. But that's the deal about the sword being bathed in heaven. "And behold, it shall come upon Idumea. It shall come upon Idumea." And I think that's in the judgment of Edom. "It shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment." Jeremiah 49, I think, is the judgment of Edom. Um, yes, the first part talks about Ammon. The chapter before talks about Moab. Now we're talking about Edom, beginning in verse 7. Concerning Edom. Now this would have been the destruction of Edom by Babylon 130 years after Isaiah wrote, and about 20 years after Jeremiah wrote this. Concerning Edom, thus saith the Lord of hosts, verse 7, chapter 49, Jeremiah. Is wisdom no more in Tema? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Remember, Esau is Edom, and Idumea is a part of Edom. "Flee ye, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Dedan, for I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him, and the time that I will visit him. If grape gatherers come to thee, would they not leave some gleaning grapes? If thieves by night, they will destroy till they have enough. But I have made Esau hear. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not." "For my sword shall be bathed in heaven, behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, upon the people of my curse to judgment." Who did he curse? "Jacob have I loved, and Esau have I hated. And thus Esau despised his birthright." Esau is the picture of the man of the land, man of the flesh. Jacob is pictures, even though he was rotten to the core like every other human being, the man who was after God, who wanted the promise, who wanted the birthright, and cheated to get it, lied to get it. And he spent 20 years in his own personal hell in Mesopotamia before God called him out and back into the land that he would give to him and his descendants forever. In verse 6, again, "The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, and with the fat of the kidneys and rams. For the Lord hath a sacrifice in Bozrah, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea." Bozrah, you see, that's in Edom. I think it's 63. I go there a lot because it talks about right after the Battle of Armageddon. Chapter 63 of Isaiah and we'll really get at. Hello, Chris. Good morning. Who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Bozrah? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel? Remember, Edom means red because Esau was red and hairy with red beard. And then he ate the red pottage. And he was associated with red. Edom. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thine garments like him that treadeth the winepress? That's Jesus coming back from the battle of Armageddon to gather the children of Israel back to himself. They are in the land of Idumea, modern Jordan, where the fortress carved into rock city of Petra is. And many people believe that's where the Lord will hide that remnant of Israel during the last 3.5 years of the tribulation. They can't prove that, but by this, why does Jesus go there if he doesn't have a reason to go there after the Battle of Armageddon? They ask him why he's all bloody, and he says, I've trodden the winepress alone before the people. There was none with me, for I will tread them in mine anger and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiments. Why? Because I just fought to save you all from the beast. I came to destroy the Antichrist and this false prophet, the beast, the false prophet, and Satan, the devil. I came to destroy them and bind Satan for 1,000 years so we could establish the kingdom here upon the earth. I came to save you. That's why I'm covered with blood. For the day of vengeance is in mine heart, the Lord will say, and the year of my redeemed is come. This is so rich. It is so wonderful. It talks about the sword of the Lord. Remember in the last chapter we talked, he has loosed the faithful lightning of his terrible sword. It's a coming. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, upon the people of my curse to judgment. The sword of the Lord is filled with blood, and is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, for the fat of the kidneys and of rams. For the Lord hath a sacrifice in Bozrah, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. Edom, who was Esau, the brother of Jacob, the son of Isaac, the grandson of Abraham. I can read this and study this and teach it every day until I die, and I'll never get it all out. I'll never learn it all myself. It's new every day. God's mercies are new every day. In verse 7, and the unicorns shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood. Talking about Edom, talking about Idumea, talking about Esau, talking about this far southwestern corner of the Levant, as thou goest down into Egypt. Their dust made fat with fatness. Nothing's growing there, but with the slaughter, the blood soaks the ground and the meat lays on it. Why? 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 For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. You've heard of the final solution from Hitler to kill the Jews. They're looking for another final solution now. These modern Nazis, these fascists, these dictators and traitors, they're nothing but lying thieves. They're trying to negotiate a peace with Israel where they'll steal half the land and give it to the people who ain't a people at all. They're all Jordanians or Saudis or Egyptians. God will judge people for dividing the land. That's one of the biggest sins against the Lord, is to divide his land. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. I've read part of this before. Revelation 9:15, and then I want to read you a little bit about out of chapter 61 of Isaiah. I'll have Isaiah talk to you before we get there, right? In this war, in this battle, talking about the same time. The six angels sounded. These are the trumpet judgments. The six angels sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And you know what's driving up? It is drying up right now. I've heard about it for years, and the river's drying up. And four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of the men. After a quarter of the population is slain, then there's going to be a slaying of the third of the population that's left at the sixth trumpet on the earth. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. That's 200 million. And I heard the number of them. And I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and jacinth and brimstone. And the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. By these three was the third part of men killed, by the fire and by the smoke, and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouths, out of the barrels of these weapons, out of the muzzles, out of the holes, out of the silos. For their power is in their mouth and in their tails. And their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, with them they do hurt. Makes me think about War of the Worlds. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils, and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk. Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornications, nor of their thefts. Good morning, Kevin. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. Jesus in Luke 4 quoted Isaiah 61. And he says, The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings to the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. And then he stopped there, because the first part of this applied to Jesus' first coming, and he did not mention the last portion, which said, the day of the vengeance of our God. The day of the Lord, the acceptable year of the Lord, came with his first coming. With his second coming will come the day of the Lord, the day of vengeance, the day when God will be avenged upon all his enemies. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, the year of recompenses for the controversy of Israel, of Zion. And major events are going to be taken in Idumea, which is and was a province of Edom, which is Esau, which is now in southwestern modern Jordan. That's right, Jennifer. Vengeance is his, and he will take it. And I'm describing the day upon which he will take it. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. And is there ever a controversy? God bless you all.